Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream, we work on building Django apps, putting them on the web, and I walk you through a project that I've been starting from start to finish. Every line of code for this project has been streamed live, and you can review the repository, go back and watch the full playlist to see every moment along the way. The purpose is to display the journey of putting something on the internet and what it takes to actually get all that done. I'm here to answer questions about Python, Django, or web development, so you're free to ask me anything on those particular subjects. Last time on this stream, we got the app deployed to Heroku, so it's live on the internet, and we're working through some DNS issues. So we're going to continue where we're going to pick up where we left off last time. Fix the DNS issues, do some testing to make sure that the service is working to the level that we expect at this point, and then advance and move on to like, what's the next thing now that the site is live? It's just the beginning of actually getting the service out there to the internet. So there's a lot left to be done, but we've come pretty far away. I think this is part 13 or something on the stream. I might be getting the number wrong there. Where were we stuck last time? So after the stream was over, we were working through DNS stuff, and it seemed like something wasn't secure in the chain of connections that we have. So I have this is the diagram that we were trying to debug with, and I was trying to illustrate where this could go wrong. There's a bunch of steps along the way, and each step needs to be able to communicate over HTTPS to have a secure connection. That's important for making sure that privacy is respected for people. And we were observing that in the Heroku logs, we were seeing that some of the traffic was HTTP, and we were getting a rejection from the Django app because it was trying to make sure that it would only serve to HTTPS. So it was doing a redirect because the route didn't seem to be over a secure connection. So we turned off that feature, trying to inspect more, and as we got down into the logs that Heroku had at the router, I think we concluded that the problem was between Cloudflare and Heroku. At the time, we couldn't see what was going on. So as luck would have it, the problem is with DNS is always with DNS. So there was some caching, and not 10 minutes after the stream was done, whatever caching I did have with this DNS layer had resolved itself so that it was actually behaving correctly. So the requests went from being served over HTTP to HTTPS. And I think reflecting on it, the core issue, and maybe somebody pointed this out and I was too tired to observe it, had to do with this portion right here. It says DNS only now, but we made a change because when I first put in this CNAME record to connect all these things together, it said proxied or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact label, and I don't want to change it back. I don't want to screw that up. And that was causing some kind of TLS termination, so some kind of removal of the HTTPS here because it was doing some proxy, and we weren't plumbing it through for the Let's Encrypt certificates that were being provided by Heroku. So when we turned off the proxy stuff at the Cloudflare layer and made it DNS only, like it says now, Cloudflare didn't do anything with the traffic and let it pass through. And I think that is what finally forced the connection to be HTTPS for what was getting to Heroku. So that leaves us in a place where we're ready to restore some of the functionality. So I had turned off this important security setting. It's called Secure SSL Redirect. We want this to happen because we don't ever want to serve this application on a non-secure connection. We've done the configuration. We can have confidence that Heroku is going to keep the TLS or HTTPS connection going, and anytime there's a new certificate, it's going to do that automatically. That's part of what I'm paying them for. So I'm not worried about that. So we set this setting to false, but now we need to set it back to true because we don't want somebody accidentally coming to the HTTP version of the site and us not trying to upgrade their connection into a secure connection. So that's going to be controlled in the settings for the app, and that's here. And unfortunately, in order to make this setting shift, I need to go back to the secrets mode, which is a black screen. I still have not changed it. Sorry about that. I've not dedicated the time to making some awesome in-between screens. But what I'm going to do is click on the Reveal Config Variables button that's in Heroku, and I'm going to look for the line that says Secure SSL Redirect. Its value is false. You can't see that right now because I can't show it to you because it's with a bunch of other secret settings. And I'm going to X that out. And it's asking me if I want to delete this config variable, and I want to say yes, and now it's gone, and now I'm ready to hide the config variables again and bring back our view. So this has been a change that will cause the app to redeploy. In fact, we might be able to see it on the overview page. It will generate a new version. There we go. So you can see what action I took, where it says I removed the secure SSL redirect. Once that finishes deploying, which might be really quick because it's just an environment change, let's go check the release log and see if it's ready to go. The release log says it's the thing that's running the migrations command, and it says at the very bottom, the release finished. So with any luck, we should be able to come back over to Journey Inbox and refresh the page and see a 200 response at this point. There should be no redirects anymore. I think everything is resolved because we got the DNS working. And if we've got this going, then this should be all happy. We get a 404 on the favicon because we haven't put that in place yet. But this is the real request they're interested in, is at that root level request. We have an index page on the whole site that is a view that is returning an empty response. So even though this is a blank screen and it kind of looks like an error page or something bad happened, is actually expected for where we're at right now. So we can inspect this and we can see it's over HTTP. We've got all of the necessary parameters on here. We still have the server identifying itself as Unicorn, which is something we might want to correct in the future. But everything else looks pretty correct to me. We've got this strict transport security. That's the HSTS settings that we set previously, which means that this will always be served from HTTPS, which is a good thing to have. And I think we're in a good spot. Okay, so let's come back to GitHub then and mark this as done. I think there's really nothing left to do here. So we can check that box and we can close this issue. And this was an important step in order for us to do some of these other things that we need to do on this launch milestone. So let's go back here and see what is left. I don't even remember. There were a few items that we had left. Let's go review them. We've got an admin account. I think I said that I would do that offline, and we set the Heroku scheduler, which is another thing that I can do later, because there are things about this that I don't want to commit to yet. I wasn't ready for it to be sending real emails yet. So the goal that I have for this evening, I guess, is to come back to this inbound email hook and actually send an email. We should be able to do that, send it to the right place, and if our receiver, which we can review in a minute, is working, it should log my email address, and so I'll have to hide that actual log, but I can tell you if it's working correctly, and make sure that that's working, and then we can update the payload and maybe get a little bit more information logged. And then probably also come back and figure out there's something wrong with the CI build that we skipped over. I think it might be just a code coverage thing that we didn't update. So there's some cleanup stuff that we should get back on top of. I don't want to diverge too long from where we need to be because I want to keep this app maintainable in the long term. And if I continue to go down an exploratory path for getting stuff done without actually cleaning up, then I'm just digging myself a big hole. Okay, so in order to get to the end of the line here, let's go to this process task, and we need to figure out what is left to do here. We've already got the SendGrid API key configured in the app, but that is for outbound to SendGrid. SendGrid has an API, and our mail configuration is using that API to actually send out the messages. So the inbound is different. And there were actually things about our inbound processing that if you remember back when, oh gosh, I hope I didn't have that on for a week. That would be sad. That would be costly. 6 days of compute time there. I mean, the computer was off the internet, so maybe it was disconnected and it was just hanging. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh. So we've got our webhook, and we don't have necessarily the protections on it that we want. So there's some verification stuff that we could possibly do to make sure that the payloads that we receive on our webhook actually come from SendGrid. And that was some stuff that we had to comment out because there were challenges with the webhook configuration and the webhook secret, and it just wasn't. We wanted to like take off all of the security checks to make sure something was going, and then we want to layer it in because you can think about it as progressively enhancing the webhook and making it more secure. First step is to confirm, did this work at all? Did we get any data from SendGrid? Do we actually have a connection going? And then once we've got evidence of that connection, even though it's just junk data initially, we can then come back and say, okay, let's lock it down and make it more secure. Because security and privacy are very important, because as a reminder, this is a journaling application, and what I want to be able to sell to customers is that their data, they don't have to worry about it. I'm replacing a journaling service of my own that I've been using for many years because I've had reliability issues with it. It seems like the group that was managing it got into a tricky spot where their deliverability went down, and just doesn't bode well for security. So security is important for this, especially if people are trusting personal data about their life, and I don't want to treat that lightly. All right, so let's go to where to go to next. I think we need to return to SendGrid and actually hook up, make sure that the webhook is working as we would expect. Now that we're online, we should hopefully be able to reach the actual webhook URL. And I don't remember what that is. We're going to have to find that. There is information in here about somewhere about where you need to, where your URL should be for different kinds of messages. And I'm drawing a blank on what it was and how that should be configured. I think, let me look here through this for a minute. I don't think it's on this page. This is like the details at the Python level. And then we can go to, yeah, here we go. Configuring and tracking of the hooks. So we have installation done, and we get a webhook secret that we're supposed to put in here. And there was a problem with this that we can talk about. The problem was this, is that what they want you to do is be able to put in a format of random:random, like this. And if you know your HTTP specification, you'll know that this is a way to put a username and password, it's called basic auth, basic authentication, directly into your route. And then, because this is on a secure connection, this piece of this will not be submitted in the HTTP requests. This will actually be added separately. Pretty sure that's how that works. But what happened with SendGrid is SendGrid wants to now use a validated domain, and so it wouldn't let you wouldn't let me put in the raw string. We have this problem of how are we actually going to get basic auth in there. What I'm hoping happens is that we will get the webhook configured, and then from within an edit screen be able to add an authentication layer on. I don't have proof of that, but that's what we need to check out. All right, so over here, we're on the dashboard. This is probably going to log me out as soon as I try to click anywhere, but let's go make an attempt. Let's do, the feature that we're looking for is called this inbound parse feature. Pretty sure. So let's click this. And yeah, it's logging me out. All right. So let me hide some stuff for a second. If the observant among you will have seen the email address corresponding to that, or at least part of it. Can't really protect that anymore, but that's okay. And I'm going to log in with my username and password. And there's a two-factor auth step, of course. So I've got to do that as well. So even if you could get the username, you'd still have to get the password and my 2FA, which is not very likely. So I'm looking for SendGrid. I'm going to punch in the code right now. Oh, whoops, I got to have focus on where to punch it in. Sorry, 1 second. And it's loading up, making sure it's not identifying anything. Looks good. So let's bring this back. Here we are. So you can see we don't have any hook right now. We tried to add it last time, and what I think happened was either I guess there's a whole host of things that it could have gone wrong. But one of the things that could have gone wrong is that there was a problem on Twilio's side. Maybe they were having some issue with their service and adding of new hooks was broken for some reason. I hope that's not the case. I hope that wasn't the case and that it's not the case tonight. The more likely scenario is that I tried to add this here and I provided a domain and subdomain, I clicked this, I provided the domain, and then I provided the URL, and I suspect what really happened is that SendGrid tried to actually validate, is this a real URL? And when it didn't validate, it came back with a really, really, really poor error message. It just said basically nothing. And that was not cool, but there was nothing we could really do about it at the time. In the intervening time from when I last tried to set it, we had looked at these options, and I think I said, let's not check them. I don't remember where in the documentation. I'm not going to search for it now, but what I got the sense of reading somewhere, maybe at the bottom, I don't know, was a recommendation to actually use both of the settings that were there. Yeah, here it is. So it says you don't have to do it, but you might as well. It's kind of my read on it. So I'm going to go over here to SendGrid, and I'm going to make sure that we click both of these options and trust that the documentation is providing good advice. And then we need our URL, which again is higher up here, where we need to type anymail, and then we need to do ESP, so that would be SendGrid, and then we need to specify the type, which in this case is going to be the inbound. So that should be /anymail, and we can go verify this. This should not blow up in our face with a 500. This should actually, it'll probably give a 405. Like, is that method not allowed? Of journey inbox, anymail, SendGrid, because this is the one that we actually have configured, inbound. Once we do that, yeah, we get a 405. And the reason we get a 405 is because we're doing a GET request on the browser. That endpoint expects a POST request. So it's sensible. What we didn't get is a 404, which would have been bad. So this is the route that we want, and anymail SendGrid inbound. So let's come over here. Whoops, wrong tab. Anymail SendGrid inbound. And if we have an error this time, I don't know what we'll do, but hopefully that's not the case. Oh my goodness gracious. What is the deal, SendGrid? So here's the scenario. We get bad request. Bad request. I wonder. I wonder if we need it to be able to respond to GET. Like if they're doing something dumb, like not trying to actually do a POST and only doing a GET. And actually, let's go check. Now that I've clicked this, we can now confirm definitively if it is checking, if it's actually trying to do that call to Heroku. So we should be able to go to our Heroku log command, which I guess will be this one in the history. And if we run this, we might see evidence of it trying to reach. We got a warning here, but that's not the, there it is. Well, that might be the one that we did from the browser. So we've got the app doing a request. Okay. Let's give it some space. And let's come here again and try and do an add here. Wow, you stinkers. That's really bad. That, like, if this isn't working, I'm just thinking, sorry. Looking at, this is a domain. That's definitely the right domain. And we shouldn't have to give it a subdomain. It says it's optional. So it's not like we're doing www here because we're not listening on that subdomain. And there's no really reason for us to separate that. I mean, maybe there's an argument to say why you could do that, but now if we come here, so there's a couple possible sources here, right? There's the idea that the bad request could be coming from validation. Well, what I didn't know is, was it a bad request to our site at journeyinbox.com, or was it a bad request from SendGrid's perspective? And it's seeming like it was actually a bad request on the SendGrid side, in which case we're kind of stuck unless I submit the support request to them. So what I'm going to do is close this, cancel this. I guess I'll refresh the page. I don't know that it will help, but let's get up, make sure we have a good clean network tab up and clear this. So if it's truly a bad request, we're going to see a 400 in our network log here. So that would be it would mean that would be a bad request to SendGrid. So we load this page. Let's clear this stuff. Oh my gosh, SendGrid, stop. We've got, they are really watching us do everything here. Full story. Datadog, API segment, SendGrid, you guys need to chill. This is the internet for you. They're tracking the heck out of you, which I won't be doing, by the way. Okay, so we're going to click these options. And now I want to see a clean network request them come through, which, good grief, it doesn't seem like they're going to let me. Anywhere I go in here, this full story must be tracking everything I do. That is insane. Stop it. Okay, hitting add, and you can see we did get an API 400 here. That's the bad request. So what this is telling me is that the bad request is on SendGrid's side. It's not us, or it doesn't appear to be us. I don't know why it's a bad request. We can go look at the request. We can see we've got host name, journeyinbox.com. So this looks like a JSON payload. We can check that out. So accept, that's what it'll accept. And I don't know, it's hard to see all of, let's see the raw request here. So here's our raw request. It's post to the settings endpoint. It's got all these headers. And those are just the headers. Okay. Doesn't include the body of the request, which is over here. Which again, we can do a raw list on. So we did an API post to this, and we gave them this information. Good grief, do we need to go debug their own API and tell them that they messed up? The response is this errors object that has like, let's just look at it raw. It's going to be easier. Which is as generic as it comes. So I don't know what's wrong with that. So let's go to the SendGrid v3 API. This is annoying. Shouldn't have to debug their stuff. Because it tells me that their app is broken. Or it's how I'm interpreting it anyway. Because, in fact, like we're sitting here staring at the tail. So that tells me that it didn't even, my theories were either it was making a request here and couldn't do something, or it was what we just saw, like just at their request side, which means, and we've got evidence that it never reached us, and we know that this is working because we hit it in the browser ourselves. That's this GET request right here that did the 405. We triggered that. So I want to see, where is their API documentation? API reference. And we want the settings. Because there's a chance, oh goodness, if I, we could work around this potentially by passing in our own, oh crap, did I show my authorization? I might have showed an authorization key, a bearer token, which would be super annoying. Let me go, I've hidden the screen just so I could check. I wasn't paying super close attention to the headers that I was showing. Okay. It's not an API key. It must be associated with my session right now. So I'm going to log out in a moment and make sure that that's not valid. I'll be sure to log out momentarily. All right, coming back. So please don't try and use that. But let's look at this. We've got the API keys. Yeah, edit and post. Gosh. I will, John, probably, but it's so annoying. It's so annoying to get in those YouTube tools. They're just not super friendly. Anyway, the API that we're looking for, y'all can already see it all, so what's the point in trying to hide it anymore? We want the user webhooks parse settings. So users API. Maybe it's not even public. Might not be a public API. It's not the friendliest thing here. Webhook. This isn't taking me where I want to go. Boo. Add an event webhook. Security features. That's a signature verification. Yeah, this is like after you've added it. Why is this API reference so hard to use? Welcome, John, by the way. Okay, inbound parse. Creating a parse setting. Maybe that's it. Here we go. So URL is all this stuff. What was in the body of our request? Whoops, wrong one. We have host name, URL. Guys, are you kidding me? So is this my fault? Am I Okay. Could be my fault. I just misinterpreted this thing. The URL must be accessible. Okay. I'm being dumb apparently. So we can do this, I guess. We can put the whole, we got to put in the whole URL. So I think what happened is I assume like that this thing is set up this way. Therefore, it's like going to string this together. Okay. So a little bit of egg on my face. It's okay. I guess we'll prove it out when we actually get this right or not. So we want https://journeyinbox.com. All of that stuff. I'm going to put in the secret stuff, which did I actually set that? I'm not sure I did. So it's should be the AnyMail webhook secret, which I don't know that I set in the settings. We're over here. Okay, gonna plug on the secrets thing for a moment. Look at these. I did not add AnyMail webhook secrets. So I'll bring this back just for a moment. And there's a command that they showed in here to generate one quickly. Just a quick like one-liner in Python. Where'd you go? Here it is. So I will show this what this would look like, and then I'm going to use a different value. So it's going to dump out the random stuff that we want. So you can see what it's doing. It's just getting 16 characters worth of stuff. So that's not the one I'm going to use, but you can see what I've done. So now I'm going to go over to the secrets. I'm going to run that same command again. And I'm going to use this one that I provided, which you can't see, but you just got to hear me out while I'm doing this. I'm copying that, and I'm going over to our Heroku page and putting in a new config variable. And at the bottom, what is it called? It's called the AnyMail webhook secret, which it needs to be both those things concatenated together with the colon. So I'm putting in a new setting, AnyMail webhook secret, with that value, and I'm adding that. I've added that to the Heroku side. And that's, again, this is the basic auth settings. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the SendGrid URL, and I'm going to add that between https:// and journeyinbox.com. But importantly, you have to add an @ before the domain name as well. And so now I'm going to try and add this. Hey, it worked. And unfortunately, I can't show you this page now because the secret is right embedded in the URL that they're showing. So I guess we're taking advantage of the basic auth, but it's unfortunately like on a page that's not permissible anymore. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard. Well, frankly, this is maybe a good time to log out and invalidate the tokens that people might have seen. I'm going to sign out of my account. And I'm going to go back to the terminal. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot with one of these things. I'm going to clear the screen. And actually, I'm going to open a totally brand new terminal. Make sure that it's all cleared as it can be. And I'm going to close the other terminal. Apologies for all this behind the scenes stuff. I feel like Wizard of Oz or something. And finally, make sure nothing is left that's there. Okay, I can bring back the actual view. So, with any luck, we have real requests this time that will work. The auth should be there. So coming back to this, we've run this. we need to actually now we need to do a deploy change. This is a good time to do this. So let's do this. We need to save this thing, and we'll say enable the SendGrid, oh my goodness, SendGrid webhook secret. That should be for number 5. Okay, and I think we can do a deploy now, which again is nothing more than a push to a certain branch in Heroku on our Heroku remote. We'll let this run. And it looks like we need to already also update our Python runtime. Just a change of 1 week has got a new version of Python. We might even be able to, well, I don't know if Heroku has support for Python 3.12 yet. That just came out this past week, I think. Let's do the runtime thing before I forget. Periodically, I just have to come in here and bump the number. Let that finish deploying. It's going to run the release command. And then we're done. And let's say update Python runtime on Heroku. I'm sure this is some kind of security or patch release. It's just good to stay on top of those. So we can do another deploy later. It's not the priority right now, but I wanted to get it while we could. Okay. Wow. My phone has no coverage in my pocket down here, apparently. Give that a second and see if I actually get cell phone coverage. Although I'm on the wireless, so I could send an email. So what I want to do is this. Now that we've deployed, we've got our webhook. So in theory, I should be able to send to SendGrid and send a test message. And if I use a proper Journey inbox receiver, something on that domain that is listening for those, then we could check the logs and see that the webhook actually got called, and it would include, what would it include? Let's go remind ourselves. It would include this line right here, received a message from, and it's going to be my email with the sender. That's going to, these things that are here. We have more to pull out of that in the future, but this is a start to verify. And that'll give us the full end-to-end experience of, is everything working from the receive side? I'm going to go start doing interesting stuff with it after that. So I'm going to pull up my email client, and I'm going to compose a message, and I'm going to say, I think I could send it to like anything at my domain here. If I write to, let's say, test at journeyinbox.com. And then this is a test. That's the subject line. I am testing inbound Parse is the body. Oh, Parse. Sorry, this is like not exciting me. You seeing me stare at my phone. That's our message. And I'm going to hit send. And I sent it. So the question is, how long does it take for that to actually happen? I suspect it's actually pretty quick, because the journaling service that I use, I happen to know that they use SendGrid as well, because they didn't do as much authentication stuff, and I could see it was one of those ones that said like sent via SendGrid if you, in your email client, and I would see the response updated on the journaling services site pretty quickly. So I think we're probably already done. No guarantee, but let's check it out. This may include my actual email address, so I'm going to put on the secrets thing again. I'll have to describe it. So I'm going to tail the logs again. And what did I see? What do I see? I don't see any Heroku logs here. That's sad. Why? Man, I just got my email address all over this release logging stuff. They really do not make this friendly with sharing. But that's because it's associated with my Heroku account, not because of the logs that we want to see. All right, that was a sad failure. So what can we do? We need to go verify. Why did that not work? I probably need to log in again. Yeah, sorry for jumping back and forth. Every time I touch one of these credentials things, it just is annoying, an annoying reality. I'm going to log in again and see if we can go find a place that will show if something was delivered or not, or what happened. So I got to put in my two-factor again. I logged out earlier. Got the two-factor up and plugging in the number. Oh, gosh, you really need to put focus on that thing right away. Okay. Is there anything that I can't show here? I don't think so. So these requests, these are like outbound messages. These messages are probably from my other app, my homeschool app. Not inbound parse. I'm wondering if there's anything. So we're on the dashboard page right now. It's not a marketing feature. Stats, that's like tracking and stuff. Oh, but here's the parse webhook. Okay, I've not been to this page before, so if I can show it in a second. All right, it's saying there's nothing on here. It's unfortunate. Almost like I wonder if we have to do a reply to an email that was sent from SendGrid. Because maybe SendGrid's saying like some rando person on the internet is sending a random thing to your domain, and we're not going to permit that because we know that you don't have that configured. Check if I got like a bounce back. I didn't get any kind of bounce message about my email. And trying to look at the details. Did I type it right? Test at journeyinbox.com. That's the right domain. I would expect to see something here. Okay, let's maybe their stats are something that takes time to aggregate. If there's any activity, again, I've got to be careful with these pages. Nothing there yet, but activity feed. Show all activity. When you send emails through SendGrid, it's bringing up some like message, like I clicked a button and then it changed the page. Changed it to this. So maybe that meant, maybe it was their way of saying there's no, it's their empty activity message. Okay, I'm going to go to suppression now. And I'm going to try, there's a bunch of pages here. Invalid emails. No invalid emails. Bounces. These bounces are old. These are probably, again, from my homeschool application. Can't show you this because, I mean, I guess I could show you this. Somebody just trying to use the site. And then no blocks. Okay. And I'm going to come back to the inbound parse stuff for a minute. As you might remember, I said I couldn't show you that. Because it's got the URL. The URL looks right to me. And even if it was wrong, we would have seen something in the logs, but there was nothing in the logs. So it's almost like SendGrid did not even attempt to call the hook. I'm going to try and edit it, see if it shows anything. No, there's nothing to edit here. It won't even let me edit it. Because apparently if I have to if I never needed to change that web secret token, I'd have to create a new one, I think. Because the URL, destination URL, is not editable. Okay. Well, now what? This isn't going to be much fun until we can actually see a message payload, I think. Let's think through what we need for a minute. We have a message here. Part of me wants to know, like, and I think we have the code. We could go look at it again. But the message, there's stuff that we want to be able to remove off that message. I would love to be able to, like, not have to modify the code and log it out to see what's in the message. We're smart people. We go navigate the source code and dig up the actual message parameters, the from email, the envelope sender, all that stuff. Figure out what stuff we need to take off of there. Because if you recall, maybe you don't if you haven't seen the stream before, but I want to be able to add a date of what the intended journal date is supposed to be for, and add it on the sending side so that on the receiving side it can do the correlation and make sure that a proper journal entry is tagged, rather than trying to do any kind of weird, I guess it wouldn't be super weird, but parsing on the subject line, or based on the send or receive date, all that stuff. The parsing on the subject line was going to be the most reliable method, unless we use some kind of metadata attributes that we can add on the sending. But I don't know how we can best see those if we don't know what the message looks like. All right. I'm really bummed that hook just did not seem to work at all. Maybe it was delayed. I can try one more time. Let me look at the logs again. Nope, definitely nothing happening here. Let me do a request to the actual, let's redo that get request. That should be the 405. And I can see that in the logs now. Okay. So the problem is definitely that SendGrid did not send anything. So what should we do to try and test this? Come back here. I think we're done with this. We've figured out all this stuff. So I don't need to save this. So let's go and open. We want to open our little diagram. So we've been trying to test this path where we're going from SendGrid, like email response goes to SendGrid, SendGrid goes to the internet, comes into the webhook. Like this, we could now say we could replace, well, that would be too specific. But there's that route in here of anymail, SendGrid, inbound, and it should be sending it to that. But there's not even evidence that it's calling Journey Inbox at all. So something is happening that this arrow is not doing anything. And I don't know if that's because what we sent to SendGrid was considered junk and maybe they just dropped it. I thought we'd see that somewhere in the suppressions as like an invalid or something, but that did not appear. But what could we do instead? Maybe we can verify the outbound, right? So we've set up the API key and we haven't set up the scheduler yet, but I can run at any moment the actual job because that's a management command. So if we do history and we search for manage.py, it's going to show up in this list somewhere. Oh, not if I don't do a grep. So this would be the history of everything that we've executed. And you can see there's this run jobs daily. That's the thing that we want. So remember last time we talked about logging in directly to Heroku. And from Heroku, you can do all sorts of things. You can do creation of super users. You can do any management command from the shell there. And it's going to do it with the settings that you have on your live site. So if we go and log into a Heroku shell and then run manage.py, run jobs daily, it's going to be as if we had our future scheduler configuration and we're running it right now. Yeah. So the problem is we need to go, who's that going to go to? So we want to go to our jobs, our SendMail job. And you can see we've got this notion of accounts. So maybe this is now the time where I want to create my account for the system and make it active. Because if that happens, well, what I can do is create my account, have it be active. I'm going to have to fiddle with the Django admin here. And that's going to be even more tricky. Gosh, there's just so many steps here. I could do it without the admin. So the problem is I need to, sorry y'all, I'm not very focused this evening. Let's go to the accounts models. Let me walk through with code. This will be easier to describe. So if we create a super user, it's going to create an instance of this user record. That's good. That's how we authenticate with Django, using the Django admin, the auth system. We also have a receiver attached to this, so that if something is created, an account object with that user is attached. So there's a 1-for-1. For every user, there's going to be an account automatically created. So this would be true as well of the, if I use the create superuser command, which would be me, then it will get an account object. I need to then update that account object from a trial, which is the default status. I've got this trialing status, and we would want to set it to the status of exempt, in my case, which is still considered an active status. Once that's true, then if we run the daily job command and have this actually execute and pull all of the active users, there will only be one. It will be mine, and it will pull the local date. It will try to get a random entry, which will just be empty. That's fine, and put everything together and send it to the email SendGrid reply to. So I guess we should check that setting. Come on. Email SendGrid reply to, which we've not defined. Or maybe I did define it, because there is no default. So I must have defined it. I just don't remember what I defined it to. Oh, thanks for the comment, John. I'm sorry, I'm a little slow on this evening. I'm not my best today, but I'm trying. Set spam to false. Yeah, maybe it was reviewed as spam. SPF records. You might know a little bit more about this email stuff than I do, John. I don't know what SPF records are. Is that a spam thing? Let's go take a look. SPF record identifies the mail servers and domains that are allowed to send email on behalf of your domain. Okay. I was figuring that because this was to my domain and not from it, that I wouldn't have the spam problem. But what I think may be happening is because there is like extra information that's associated with the email. And so the fact that I sent it and SendGrid had never seen my email come in from it and had never seen anything be sent to test at Journey inbox might have caused it to be considered invalid. But it's still just it kind of disappeared into the ether. I would have expected it to see it somewhere, but I didn't. So my operating theory right now is like, if we can send it to my real email address as a message that comes from Journey inbox, and then reply to that, then it might treat that as something that SendGrid actually trusts, because SendGrid can then look at the attributes of where, the original to, and realize, oh, this came from us and the user is replying to it, so it must be something that is more trustworthy. Does test already have a mailbox? That is a good question. That's a good question. Is that something we have to set up with SendGrid? Am I just missing configuration? Could just be missing, like, this is new to me, so I could just be missing basic settings. Mail settings. All right, let me click secrets here. Go to my mail settings. Event webhooks is one of the things that says here. I go to that page. It's taking us to what? Event webhooks. Notify a URL of your choice with information about events that occurred as SendGrid processes your email. What is this different from inbound parse? I'm getting mega confused. Okay, let me bring this back. So I came to mail settings. There was, I don't think there was anything secret in there. I don't really want to click it right now. But one of the things right at the top was webhook settings. And it says event webhooking. Notify a URL of your choice with information about events that occur as SendGrid processes your email. So what is this? What is this? Is this different from inbound parse? So could be I've been setting up the wrong thing this whole time. Go back to here. And this is just the generic ESP configuration. Are we supposed to use webhook or inbound parse? And what's the difference? A bunch of details about what it sends for on the extra attributes. Status tracking. That's not what we're doing. Oh, okay. If you want to receive email from SendGrid through AnyMail's normalized inbound handling, follow SendGrid's inbound parse webhook guide. Okay. So I don't know what's the difference between SendGrid inbound parse versus event webhook. Huh? Maybe inbound parse is doing more stuff for us. Okay, let's read this event version for a little bit because it's interesting. This document will guide you through adding and configuring an event webhook. If you're new to the concept of a webhook, nope, not. There are two parts to setting up the event webhook: URL you provide and a SendGrid operation that makes post requests. Maybe the event webhook is like other things that SendGrid is doing, not just email parsing. Yeah, it's got like actions to be posted. And then this screenshot's a little hard to see, but it looks like experiment data. It's stuff like opened or checked, processed, things related to deliverability. Okay. All right, so I think it's just a different kind of webhook that's not specific to email parsing, but just things that happen on the platform. Not sure why they have those split out differently. I would feel like you'd have one webhook and then inbound parse would just be an event type, but what do I know? I'm not their product team. Okay, let me put the secrets back on for a second, go back to the mail settings, see if there's anything else that I missed. So we've got webhook settings, event settings, suppression settings, and legacy template settings. That's what's listed here. So none of those sound like setting up mailboxes of any kind. Continuing to look at the settings on the side. And okay. Oh, I can handle 100 emails a day? That's way more than I thought. I thought I used to be like 10. I'm just clicking through some random stuff in here now. But again, apologies, I don't really know which is okay to show versus not. Let me get out of here. Still have nothing. Yep. Still nothing in the activity feed. So yeah, let's do this. Let's do that route that I talked about. Let's see if we can get the outbound working so that we get an email showing up on my phone. That would be ideal. And then I'll try to reply to that and see if it does the other path back. If not, we still have to debug one of the paths, but we'll have knocked out one of these for the production environment. So we've got, I need to check this setting over here of email SendGrid reply to and see what I set that as. I think I remember now. It was something like journal@journeyinbox.com was, I believe, the value I used. Let me confirm. So email SendGrid reply to, yep, I'm right, journal@journeyinbox.com. So that's gonna, who it's going to go to, or come from, I should say, when it shows up to me. I want to be able to make that a little bit more friendly, because I think it's just looking like a regular standard email address, and I want to be able to say, you know how you can do like the name attributes, so that it would have somebody's actual a nice looking name. John, looking at your message here, wouldn't it get forwarded to your mail order and reject those emails that don't have a mailbox endpoint? I see what you're saying. I think no, because of those DNS settings that we put in. The DNS settings that I'm not sure that I'm even supposed to show y'all, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think it's, remember we configured SendGrid a while ago, and it asked us to hook up all this stuff. So I think because these things exist, it's enough that if something is sent as an email, I mean, I could be wrong. There could be a problem in here, but that's my suspicion. We might need to check on that though. Is there? We're kind of sort of flying a bit by the seat of my pants here, and maybe there's something about receiving email, like DNS or something. Receive email. Those don't look like good options. About just DNS. What is reverse DNS? My DNS records aren't validating. What is, how to set up reverse DNS? I don't know what this is. Okay, I think I'm out of my depth right now. Let's just do what I was talking about with the setting up to SendGrid. Let's knock that one out at least. Have confidence that that path is working, and then we can bang our heads against DNS for a while. That's just not my favorite thing. Okay, so step one to this is I need to create an account on Journey Inbox. So I have this. There's no account system here yet, and I need to be able to put this in my I don't use LastPass anymore. What is it? One password. So I'm going to come over here And I'm going to log in. So this is Heroku run bash. Remember, that's the command to actually get the terminal going on bash. And it's going to start up the thing over here. And now I'm basically remoted into the Heroku environment. And I can run all of my commands, and my code's available. So I could do manage, shell plus. We did this last time. That's not what I want to do. So what I want to do is create super user. So we've got create super user, and I need a username and an email and a password. And I'm not going to show all that off, sorry. So I'm going to type in a username. Sure, that one should do. And an email address. And then I'm going to go get a nice long password from 1Password. I'll have it auto-generate something. Gotta find where that is. Suggestions? No. Password generator. I've got a pretty good long password here. I'm going to paste it again. And then before I lose that, I need to create this in 1Password. So one moment. And I guess this is a login. Nope, that's not right. Yeah, this is a login. Sorry, this takes some time. Got to do this right so I don't lose my credentials to my own site. And that and a password and got to put in the domain. Normally I don't have to do this by hand, but we're the first user number 1 here, so it doesn't have a login ability yet. Okay. So now I've created that account. I can bring this back. Whoops, hit the button. So you're suggesting, let me read your suggestion here, John. Because I don't have an account to receive the message. Test in the case an email did not complete the sending of your test message. Okay, so I see your point. I think what we would have seen is some kind of logging in Heroku. Like it's like Django didn't even get called. So what I would have expected to have happened is if the webhook was working, we send to test@journeyinbox.com. I am making an assumption right now that because of the DNS settings that we've done, that SendGrid, in the process of being a valid SMTP receiver in the universe, the SMTP protocol for journeyinbox.com will ultimately get to SendGrid. I'm not sure if that assumption is right, but that's the assumption I've been making because of those configuration settings. If that's true, I would have expected SendGrid to then turn around and call the inbound parse hook. And that would have shown up in the Heroku logs as something, and even if it got rejected for some reason because there's no account there for the email that I sent this from, it wouldn't have mattered. The fact that it got called at all would have been proof positive that it was working to go from SendGrid to my own site. So that's my thought process there. All right. So now we have shell plus, and now we should be able to do, if I do user objects count, we should have 1, the one I just created. And so we could be able to, I should be able to get that, and I can't show you any details about it, but let's say user equal user objects, I'll just do get, there's only 1. Hey, that'll only ever work right now until I get once I have another user, that line will never work again. It will give a multiple users found thing. And we should have, on that user, there should be an account. This is because this is a reverse, this is a one-to-one field. So there's a user account status, and that's a 1. And that 1, as a reminder, corresponds to our status field over here, which is trialing. So if I do on this side account dot status dot trialing, we should see the value. Can I cast it? Don't remember how to make this work. How to get the actual value. I don't think that's going to work. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So that proves that that's that value. And if we do this for exempt, which is what I really wanted to be, it should be I didn't think it was a 3. I thought it was a 5, but nope, 3. Okay. So I don't want to set the raw number. What I want to do is I want to say user account status is equal to account status exempt. And this is future proofing so that when I actually have the system up and running, that my own account won't be marked as expired when we have the logic to do that. Right now it's in trialing, and the trials can end. So we can now say the user account save, and if we go get it again, if I do account, or just account objects get, which is going to be the only account in the system, and if I look at the status, it should be a 3. All right, so we have with confidence the account set up with the right configuration. It is an active account, and we're at this terminal. So now we should be able to do manage run jobs daily. Now if this works, we shouldn't get any kind of message. Right? We didn't put any logging in here. Could, but we didn't. And it's going to send an email. And the API key is configured. Can't show that to you, but it's configured. So this should actually complete, and in a moment, I presume, show up on my email. Try running it. No errors. So that's positive. I think if it wasn't working, it would have exploded in our faces. Let me check over here. See if I have anything in my inbox. Awesome, I do. Yeah, how can I show this? I don't think I can. It says, journal, it's Thursday, October 5th, how are you? And then in the details, when we go in here, okay, this is safe to show. It doesn't actually show my email address, but I don't know. I think I tried this last time, it's too blurry. But there's our email, there's our prompt. Seaford, welcome. We're getting everything configured. We're actually setting up the service. So it's live, the site is live. We created the first account. We did our first test sending of the email, so it's a journaling service, and the journaling prompt is going to come to the user via email, and the journal entries will be recorded via email. So we're testing out that whole flow right now. So the message, it doesn't look great yet because it still says just journal instead of journey inbox. So it needs to say like journey inbox journal, I think is what I want it to say. But that's a thing we can clean up. Actually, let me write that down. So clean, or not, it's not really a cleanup. It's improve, reply to with better client labeling. In my email client, the preview currently shows as journal as the from line. From line. It should say something like journey inbox journal. I think that's probably the most meaningful name. It shouldn't be that hard to fix once we have it. And it might just mean, it might be one of these things where we could, at this level, as the from email, Django might accept, actually, let's go check that out. I'm curious. Let's go check out Django settings. And we want to look at the send mail call and see if it will take a longer name. Send mail. So a string. Default from mail. If there's details on here. Because, you know, there's like, what I'm thinking of is I'm sure you all have seen this before. It's something like Matt Lehman, and then I think the syntax is something with like angle brackets, foo@bar.com kind of thing, something like that. And if you can do that, that's the way that the email sender syntax can work to actually show Matt Lehman rather than foo in that silly example there. So that, I don't think there's anything we need to do here. I think we're done with the actual like server side. So let's close that. So I'm not paying for server time. I'm going to reply. So I'm on my prompt says, how are you? Reply to this prompt to update your journal. And then below that, because I have no entries yet, it says, oh, thanks for the confirmation, John. I thought it was right, but I wasn't positive. It says, you have no entries yet. As soon as you do, a random previous entry will appear in your prompt, which is the message we wanted to say. So I want to say test reply to journal. Test reply to journal. That's good enough. And hit send. And what I'm hoping, let's see if I can, yeah. So what we have now is something different. And this might be why it would work where the other one didn't. Because like again, I can't really show you this, but I'll just read it off. I'll read it off mostly. I clicked on my client, so I've got Gmail. It's not a shocker. And there's you can expand it to see like the from and the to field. And it shows you the date. and it says standard encryption, and then it says view security details. And when I click that, it says security details, and it says mailed by. And here's the important distinction. And I think, John, I think this is where it's gonna do it right with this reply. It has the subdomain that I configured for SendGrid, and it started with EM and then with some numbers. Again, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to share that information or not. So I'm hoping that the reply to will maybe an SMTP like have extra information and take that subdomain so that it will actually get to SendGrid and then use that and then do the inbound parse. That's my hope. So let's go check it out. Let's go see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. The easiest way is going to be to check the logs again, but I can't show you the logs because it would have my email address and stuff if it was in there, because it's going to log that message that we put in that receiver. I'm going to put on the secret screen for just a moment. I'm going to run the log command. And what does it say? There's nothing here. That is a bummer. There's nothing here but an email address that from starting my bash prompt from earlier. So I can't show you that. So what it's showing in the logs right now is it shows the HTTP logs that we saw earlier when I did the GET request from my browser. And then the very next thing we see, because we haven't been getting any other traffic, is it says starting process with bash by me, the user, with my email address. And then it's showing that a couple of lines related to the run process that we started, the SSH session, basically. And then when we exited out of that, it switched from up to complete. Well, that's a bummer. That still nothing. So, upside, we have successfully sent information to SendGrid. John, is the logging level set correctly? I think it is, because again, we're looking for any evidence of a request log. So if SendGrid is calling to our webhook, we're gonna see it, because we did see the evidence of just coming over here and hitting enter on this showed a request log. So I'm confident that we would have seen it had it actually worked properly. So we've got the outbound working, and is that on our launch list? No, we just have this inbound stuff. So we want this working, but it's not. This is the details. Well, it's right in here. Deployed to production. Sent reply to SendGrid. No real evidence. No evidence that SendGrid called the webhook. So really what I want to confirm is any activity. Like, it would be nice to know, did you get the email at all? So need to confirm that SendGrid received the email. And that might be the thing that we're missing. Maybe there's some configuration in SendGrid side for setting up some kind of receive mailbox that we're missing. I thought that would be done by those DNS settings, like I said, but perhaps it's just not the case. And that's the mystery. And we got to get this done. This is really important because this is what closes the loop that makes the whole service actually useful, or the potential for usefulness. We still have to actually record the journal entry into the system, but there's not really much benefit to digging further into the code until we get this plumbed through, I think. So we got to poke around and look for the ability to set or have a mailbox. And I've not been super impressed with SendGrid's own search capabilities, so let's try it from Google. So SendGrid receive email. Maybe Google has a better way. Can you receive emails on SendGrid? Well, yes, that's the inbound parse, but that doesn't seem like that's like the other half once it's gotten there. How else can we send? SendGrid send to domain. I don't know. We've already done the domain authentication. And that was necessary in order to even have our API calls work, remember? That's how it got here, is without the domain authentication, which is what those DNS settings were about, primarily, I thought, it wouldn't consider anything we sent from our domain as valid. It's a way to like prevent spam problems. So what we need to know now is there more configuration for when we want to go back? What if we search for something else? How about SendGrid reply? Reply to. Just open a few tabs here, see what we can do. So they're showing it with the API call here. That's the only case on this page. That's not useful enough. We set, I don't think, like because of Python and the SendMail API call, we have the from field listed on my email. That should be the reply to, right? You reply, and it's going to go to the from address. That's how email works. That's a silly thing. So I think the mail itself is configured properly. Just the question is there something that SendGrid needs in order to properly receive? From name. Maybe it's a separate setting. Oh, this is a marketer's page. Just looking for any details that might hint at something else we need to set for receiving. Nothing on that page. Multiple reply tos. There's, wow, this page is almost useless. Release page. And then we're back to domain authentication. Well, kind of puzzled, and I don't know that I'm going to make enough progress on this. This might be something that I just need to research offline, because I haven't found an obvious answer, which is disappointing. Yeah, I see what you wrote there, John, around the DKIM, and we looked at that, and when we did that setup stuff for our domain authentication, I'm pretty sure that the automatic part, when there was an option to set up automatic, probably on this page somewhere, automatic. Where else was it? When you complete automatic domain authentication, your existing TXT records will be replaced with Twilio SendGrid record. Now, both automatic, blah, blah, blah. I think, I guess my point is, I think the automatic said that it was going to do the DKIM or an SPF for you. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought I remember it saying. Boo. I was really hoping to have a big win here this evening of getting all of this. All right, let's poke on the activity thing a little bit more. See if there's anything. So this should show all activity. Hey, there it is. Okay. Just showed you my email address again. So maybe this is actually working better than we thought. I'm going to go back to this page. All right. The activity says that my message was delivered, and I can click on it, and I'm reading the event history right now, and it says it's received by. So maybe it's just a delay. I don't know. Let me check the logs again. No, there's nothing in those logs. Okay, so delivered, that's good. I'm going to look at the invalid, and I'm looking in the suppression section now. No invalid emails. Unsubscribe, I'm just clicking through these things now. Let me see. Nothing, I don't think there's anything I need to hide. So, no invalid emails. No blocks. No spam reports. Is there time on the events? Yeah, oops, this is the page that had a bunch of like, well, those are all bounces, so this probably, we're dead, so it's not too bad to show you. Yeah, no group or global unsubscribe. So there's nothing in this section, which is good. I wouldn't expect there to be. I'm going to go back to the activity thing. And it should show my email. And it's the message we saw. It's so it's doing UTC in the message we sent. So it's actually thinking it's a day ahead. So the subject line says it's Thursday, October 5th, even though it's technically Wednesday, October 4th in reality here where I am on the East Coast. It says last event received, and it's in a UTC time at 2:28, so that was 17 minutes ago, I guess. When I click the email information, it shows an event history. I'm going to click more details. So this the information that it's showing is about the Heroku side. So it's showing a message ID, it's showing the sending IP address, and I know it's from the Heroku side because there's a unique arg section of the AnyMail ID. And I'm sure that was added by AnyMail. SendGrid's not going to have that, of course. And there's an API key that I can't show you on this page either. So that's the details portion. And then underneath this all, there is an event history. And it says, okay, this is starting from the oldest events. I really apologize, folks. I know this isn't, you're hearing me talk. It's like doing a radio show for code. That's not great. But we've got an event history, and it says received by SendGrid, and then it was processed at 2:23 a.m. So this is processed from the API request. And then there is another message in the chain that says received by Gmail SMTP. So, I told you that my email address was a Gmail address, no surprise. And Gmail must have this. This is their SMTP location, just some URL, and it says it was delivered at 2:23. So we saw that because I was able to tell you that I saw it in my Gmail. Then SendGrid must still have some tracking even on plain emails. I'm not sure how that works, but it says when it's got open tracking, and it shows that it was opened 9 times. I don't know how that happened because I definitely only opened it like the one time, I think. But it's a range of times from 2:23 UTC to 2:28. So we've got a full record here, but then there's nothing beyond that. And that's what I don't get. Like, I feel like we should be able to look at inbound parse or something like that. Let me go to the inbound parse stuff now, the parse webhook. And let's understand why it's not going anywhere. I'm going to be annoyed if inbound parse is not on the free account. Maybe that's the problem. Because there's a message right at the top that says, finish your account setup in order to select a paid plan and unlock the full potential of Twilio SendGrid. So this could be just, okay. This could be just silliness of, is inbound parse a feature of the free account? SendGrid, free. That would explain a lot, right? Free account features. Right. So this is the one where it starts getting a lot pricier. I mean, well, anything's pricier than 0, I suppose. And this is what I do expect. And I when I talked about cost of this app, that I baked that into my estimates, that it was going to be about $35 a month, because it's about $15 for the Heroku stuff, the $10 for the database, $5 for the compute, and then $20 here for actually sending emails. But where I am right now is on this tier. This is why we've been able to test this at all without me paying for it. And I'm hoping that this stuff doesn't say that inbound parse is not included. See the full feature breakdown. Then inbound. Okay. So inbound parse is a feature even on the free level. I consent. That. Weird. Maybe there's like, well, no, we could still be back at the same root problem. So even though we saw the activity, like I was reading off to you, the activity was API call from Heroku up to SendGrid. Hey, role models, I'll get to your question in just a moment. Thank you for your patience. Because I want to complete this like flow thought in my head. So that was the Heroku to SendGrid, SendGrid to my Gmail account. And that's where the history stopped, and it showed all the opens and stuff, right? But I would have expected, or would have hoped, I guess, if that there was a reply that was received, that there'd be more history that would have said something like, received reply from this, and then called parse. I don't know if that's how their system works. I'm making some assumptions. So maybe we're still in a place where the email is just not, there's something in the chain that's blocked. And given the time, I think what I'm going to do is call it there. Like I've given this now well over an hour's worth of time trying to get this working, and it's not quite there. So I'll go read offline and try and figure this out, and then we'll hopefully come back and close the loop. Well, let me jump to your question now, role models, and let's see what it says. Webflow. Gosh, I don't know. Is a Webflow, is that one of those no-code website builder? Okay. Is this like a comparable to a bunch of them? I'm drawing a blank on all of them. Webflow versus, this is a good way to find out. Squarespace, yeah. Okay. My wife had Squarespace, and I'm trying to see. If you're looking to have near total control over your website's look and feel, let's look and feel. And so your question is like, how much is a Webflow a no-code tool? And role models, are you familiar with that term no-code? Or does that mean something to you? Because it does, and I can explain a little bit. It has a specific meaning in our industry, because it might be that what you're looking for is not. Webflow might be a tool that is meant to be more of like maybe you're a photography business, or you're some kind of vendor that's like, you have information you just want to show to the world. That's how I would think about. That's how I would think about Squarespace, at least. Just out of curiosity, since we're now kind of at the end stage here and wrapping up, let's take a quick look at what they're offering. So they've got content manager, interactions. Like I got to say, role models, I don't have a ton of experience with this, but I can try and put my lens on it. Taking a quick look. You've been able to connect Auth0 to Webflow, connect a database via custom attributes. So once you have a database connected, this is where I'm not clear. Like if you connect a database to via custom attributes, what does that mean? Like how would you get data into the database? Does Webflow have tools for that? That'd be pretty cool, but I don't know. I don't know what their CMS does or what their feature set is. I'm a little out of my depth, but I will try to describe it. So I think of these as like categories of tools of if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm starting a business, I need a website. The first place I would start them is like Squarespace or Wix. Cost money. There's not a lot of configuration control that you have, but you can get up super fast and do all the display kind of stuff that you could need. If you want to go a little deeper than that, like maybe you need more integrations and more options, and you have a something you want to sell, and it's not just like a brochure kind of website, then I might send somebody to something like Shopify, which has a whole ecosystem of plugins and things you can add. So, but that's more about merchants and selling. To me, that's like the kind of the entry points into, if there's a spectrum, those are the most done end for you at cost, and that stuff. The layer beyond that gets to a category that I think is referred to as the no-code space. And this is if we can find a quick set of no-code tools. There's a couple of popular ones. Bubble, yeah, Bubble is one that is really popular. Well, I think they just had a big price uptick. I don't know. I don't know these things very well, but I've heard of them. And the idea behind these things is you have something that needs to be a little bit more dynamic. You need a little bit more flexibility, and you have maybe some Airtable tables or databases, and you want to plug it together with Zapier, and you're very, very, very scrappy, I'll say, with this flow. So that's what I feel like no-code tools are for. Now, getting to your question, I don't know where Webflow exists on that end of the spectrum. If it's more like a no-code tool, or if it's more like a Squarespace. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. Maybe it's trying to navigate that. Where I tend to live and what this stream is about is beyond those no-code tools. Now you're starting to get into there's still more spectrum of, and John mentioned Wagtail there. So like kind of do it yourself is like a Wagtail, which is you're deploying your own thing. You're adding a popular open source software package like Wagtail is a content management system, and you're setting that up. You don't want to do a lot of custom code config yourself, but you do want to have a pretty large amount of control, and that's kind of the domain that Wagtail sits. So we've got keeping the spectrum going. That's like pure brochure site, like Squarespace, and then Shopify is like doing both a brochure but also selling, and then no code that's like doing something that's more than just selling. It's maybe a kind of a SaaS where you're being a little scrappy about it. And then more custom is some layer of tools that are pre-built, and you're just putting them with content, and you want more control. And then we finally get to the full SaaS end of the spectrum, which is where this stream lives, which is like we're using open source tools, and we're writing all the code ourselves and doing all the database configuration. And even that is still on a spectrum, like because what excuse me, what I'm doing here is a platform as a service. I'm doing Heroku, so I don't have to manage my infrastructure. I can just build my app and deploy it. Then the final end of the spectrum, the thing that I do in my work environment, my regular day job of working at a web company, is doing the really low level infrastructure stuff with AWS and all the cloud deployment and building apps on top of that. That's like that's the most or one of the most extreme ends. I guess you can go even farther and do your own hardware if you want to really get into it. And that's something like David Hennemeyer Hansen has been talking about recently with like Basecamp has been getting off the cloud and getting back to managing the hardware and doing full stack. So it's pretty broad spectrum. Let me see your comment here. You try to develop React and Next.js, create a platform. Okay. Yeah. This is where I can't answer very much beyond what I just said though. So I just don't know what Webflow is capable of. Is it able to connect to random backends? Is it something like, because there's a pattern with some tools that I've seen where somebody might do what you've described with like setting up React, and maybe instead of doing a backend themselves, they'll connect to Firebase as their database and their place to store data, which I don't know. In my spectrum, I'm not even sure where that fits in. Maybe somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of options there that make this tricky to give a real assessment on. And not knowing the tools, I can't offer any more than that. So hopefully that was helpful to some degree. I'm sorry if I can't make a direct answer to your question though. Blah blah, welcome. I see you got a question there too. Let me check it out. Does the new async features of Django work for sending email without SendGrid? So no. I don't know. To make email work, what do you need? You need either you're saying, well, you're specifically saying without SendGrid. So that would tell me that you have to set up your own email system, which means an SMTP server, or I guess POP, the other model, but SMTP is the most common thing that I know of. And Django can do that. Django can do SMTP. I think you'd have serious challenges with deliverability, because who's going to trust your domain as a sender? Because there's just so much, there's so many spammers out there. So many people that are trying to send crap mail on the internet, that I think getting into that and setting up email platform, it might be challenging that way. I don't know if that is async friendly at all. I don't like the Django project is on its way to becoming more and more of an async friendly framework, and they're focusing on yeah, you're welcome, blah 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 blah. They're focusing on like the really core elements first. Like they started with views. This new release, or these newer releases, I don't know if it's 4.2 or if this upcoming 5 release has more of the ORM, has async functions in it, async methods, I guess, and they're sticking with the core. And I think they're also spending time on making sure middleware is async compatible, so you get like a full stack. On that spectrum of, is this core Django? I don't think that email is going to be high on that list. I mean, email's still in there. They still support the SMTP stuff. I don't predict that it will be a quick target to work on. And that could be part of how SMTP works. I don't know. I just don't know where it's going to end up. Okay, so this is not an advertisement for Bubble. I've never used them. I don't give them any credit at all. I have no idea. So let's chat about where we want to be next time. So we're still, sadly, not done with the inbound email hook. And the goal that we need to figure out is specifically, let's change this to, why does email not seem to get to SendGrid? What configuration is missing? I doubt it's blocking, but is something blocking receipt? So those are questions on my mind in order to make that go. Once we have it, we should be able to have our receiver And we'll do two things. We will make sure that the outbound message includes the date that the journal entry is supposed to be for, so that when we get that inbound receiver, we can pull that attribute out of the message details, which SendGrid should be able to pass along to us, and then be able to confidently say, without doing any parsing of the subject line, what is the date that this is supposed to be for. So if it says it's for, like the message I got tonight, if it says it's for October 5th, we'd put 2023-10-05 in as the attribute of date or journal date or something that we can pull out, parse with our standard parse tools with confidence, record that date entry is going to be for the October 5th date. At that point, we should have the full loop. And it gets to really some interesting questions beyond that. So I will be able to use that. It would be enough. We need to set up the scheduler, but once that's going, we've configured my account, whether you saw it or not. I mean, you didn't, because I had it all in the secrets mode. But that's configured, and it should start flowing it back. And so once I have evidence that my journal entries are actually going in there, I will start using the service as a regular user, see how it goes. We'll get some data, or I'll have a data point, and then we can start building up the features that we need. Some kind of user interface. We need something to actually allow other people to view this. We need to add the ability to log in. We need to add connections to Stripe, like so can people start paying for it, all that kind of stuff. And that will be helpful along the way. That's the journey that we're on here. Looks like there's a couple comments. Yeah, John, we will play around. That's a good call out. Let me write that down. Spam could be considered spam. I don't know why, especially if we if the reply, you know how I showed you, or I said that the reply and the security information knew that it came from SendGrid. So if I replied back to that, I don't know why SendGrid would think that was spam, but we can check on that. Is the spam setting a problem? That's a good question to check on. Same bad time, same bad channel. Yeah, I will actually. So I will not be here next week. So next week is my regular meetup with my Python meetup here in town. So it'll be a couple weeks, and I will actually. It's going to be an interesting talk. The talk for my Python meetup is about doing what are they called? LLMs, the large language models, and doing that on your personal machine or a very cheap cloud machine, and having your own personal, not OpenAI, it's the other one. What's the image generation? The DALL-E. DALL-E is the one from OpenAI. Like having your own, if you wanted to make your own custom images and stuff. So that's what the presenter is going to cover, and I'll make sure that gets recorded, and I'll share that up on my site there. So let me see. Role models. You got another question here, and I should add, if y'all want to ask me questions offline when I'm not streaming live, you can join on Discord. I've got mattlehman.com, and there's this little Discord icon here, which is a building SaaS Discord, and you're welcome to ask me questions there. And I can't promise I'm not always on there 100% of the time or paying attention to it 100% of the time, but I do try and give pretty quick responses when I can. So let me read your question though. What would I recommend for the first steps to do whenever you aren't able to figure out errors? That is an interesting philosophical question for programming. So my first step, two first steps, or one is I've internalized it, but it's worth sharing. Is, did you actually read the error message? So I have found, I've now been in the industry for 20 years. Gosh, I'm getting old. And I've worked with enough junior engineers who, when faced with a problem, and they've got the error message in front of them, and I'm, pairing with them, like I'm looking at it together with them, and they're confused. And I am confused for them because what I've seen is almost like either they're not comfortable reading error messages, or their eyes just kind of glaze over at the wall of text. And admittedly, like programming errors can be like a big wall of text, but sometimes the truth is just sort of staring you in the face if you're willing to read it. So that's my tip number one, is make sure you read the error message and actually find the real error messages, because oftentimes code will be very, very descriptive and tell you, in the case of exceptions, exactly why something is going wrong. That can be a big help. Let's say you've done that and you still don't have knowledge of how to fix it, which is common, happens to all of us. Some errors I know exactly how to fix because I've seen them dozens or hundreds of times. Others, I was like, what the heck is this? I don't know. One strategy I like to use is literally copy the most detailed portion of the line, paste it into Google, and see what kind of results I get back. Some of these, especially if they are not in your code, and this only really works if it's like library code and it's not directly your code. But if it is somebody's library code and you get an exception from some library or something, then I don't know, 9 times out of 10, maybe that's too high, you'll get exactly some kind of message with somebody who's experienced a similar problem. That is a great way to learn. Google is still a good index for that. You might even try, I guess if it's before 2021, you might even try pasting your error message into OpenAI and see what it responds with. So it can do some interesting parsing work there as well. So those are the 2 introductory steps of like orienting yourself. Then if you don't have it, so let's say you have that orientation. Thanks for the comment there, role models. I'll add a little bit more before we leave, and then we'll wrap from there. So orient, get a knowledge of what's going on. If you're not able to orient yourself just kind of statically from, and I mean statically by information that is static on the internet, like you've read the message yourself, you've seen it just at that moment, or you've seen stuff on the internet and you've seen what that says from that point in time. That's when you can start moving into more of a dynamic assessment where can you reproduce the error in a local environment? That's once you've reproduced the error, it's just a matter of time, I think, before you're able to truly solve it. If it's 100% reproducible, then you can start to get into either writing an automated test around the error. That's a good way to do it, is write your test, show that it's failing, and then continue to run that test and be modifying the code around it until you have a good understanding of it. A good and maybe a faster way to do that is to use your debugger tool. And so a flow that I would like to do often is, if I can 100% reproduce it, I put it in a test case, and then I use a debugger, and I put the debugger right around the line where it was going to raise the exception, or have whatever kind of error is going to show up. And once you're in the debugger, you can use the context information of the debugger of what are my local variables, what is the stuff around it that helps inform the context for why the error is happening. And then you can start to work backwards and build up a mental model of the runtime situation to look for the data constraint that is being violated that's triggering the error in the first place. So that's roughly how I do this. I think I just reminded me, I have a chapter in my book. It's a shameless plug. I'll do it anyway. There's a chapter in here. Here we go. This is a little bit more specific to Django, but there's some general knowledge in here that's useful on debugging and the reason that you debug is because you have a bug in your system. Is kind of what the term is around for. So I think that gets to sort of the heart of your question. Hopefully that will help. Blah blah. Do I have any AI features planned for my apps? In all honesty, not right now. I think if I would want to explore that if I had a really solid use case, like if there was a really solid request of what I would do that for. Like here's some thoughts. For my homeschool application, I've only got a couple of users. I at this stage am not deeply interested in trying to make that a big product. It serves my family well. It serves a couple other people well, and I might do a little bit of marketing, but it's kind of it's a finicky enough market that I don't anticipate a wild runaway success with the homeschool crowd. They're not they're pretty cost sensitive. I'll put it that way. So adding AI kind of features could be a potentially pricey thing to do. Okay, but let's imagine though that that this app, the Journal Inbox, or Journey Inbox, sorry, turns out to be somewhat successful. People are using it for journaling. What might they want AI features for? I could think of some generic purposes or features that might be useful. The things that might come to mind is sentiment analysis. Like, your data is still private about your journal, but maybe there is some internal scanning and natural language processing that could happen. And AI, natural language processing, I feel like is a subfield within AI, or it's a subfield within machine learning. And I think AI is sort of destroying the old way that a lot of NLP worked for the better. Like, it's just really impressive results. So I could see AI being used to look at journals over a period of time and try and pull out mood or themes about your life that might be interesting, like almost like an insights aspect to your data. And of course, that's only as good as your journal entries are. So if you're writing a handful of words, like, there's just not going to be enough signal there. But if you're really pouring out your heart on what goes into your personal journal, then there could be some interesting stuff there. And the reality is there's a lot to go before I ever even would consider that future. And people would have to pretty strongly want that, because it's a big jump to want to feed that kind of stuff into a tool. There are some cool tools that are not necessarily AI, but like I said, they're natural language processing. One of them is called Spacey, where they've done machine learning for you. So you don't have to go full AI to take advantage of text processing. I've done some fun projects on this. I had a project probably 2 years ago. This is just goofy, but I took old PDFs about UFO research or UFO stories, or UAP in the new parlance, if you're into that thing. And I fed, and these are PDFs from like the 50s and stuff, like really old, near Roswell kind of things. And just for fun, I wanted to see like what information could I learn about them. And so I set up work to have a pipeline that would run these PDFs through OCR. So what does OCR stand for? Character recognition. Optical character recognition. Basically scanning text and turning it into letters, right? And then would take the text and feed that into Spacey, and Spacey will be able to parse sentences and find out proper names, give you sentence structure and stuff. So just kind of looking for what were interesting patterns in there. So that was a silly project. I don't know what I expected to find. It was just something fun and goofy to do. But you don't have to go full OpenAI or any of these other tools to take advantage of good machine learning techniques out there. And some of the challenge with thinking about AI is cost, right? There's no way I would ever be, or no way right now, I should say, that I'd ever be training a model because the models for like ChatGPT-4, I think they're millions of dollars of training because of the amount of compute that is used to like put all of this data together in order to make a model. I don't know how all of that works. I know how some of it works. I can understand why it's costly because it does like just a lot of analysis. But yeah, that's sort of where I stand on AI at the moment. Maybe by the time Journey Inbox is nice and rich in features, there will have been another exponential leap in AI, and we'll be plugging something into our heads to do journaling. I don't know. But we'll figure it out when we're a little farther down the road. Thanks for the question. All right, y'all. I think that's enough for me. I'm enough goofing around. Thank you all for joining in. If you do me a favor and give me a thumbs up on the video, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment if there's anything on your mind, join me on Discord, follow me on Twitter, do all these things. I should note I do also have Patreon, or you could subscribe here on YouTube. Do want to say thank you to my patrons. I don't do this enough, but I do appreciate them immensely. So thank you to Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Ryan, Patrick, Fred, Aaron, Philip, Shivan, and Miguel and Monty. So those folks have contributed. They help pay for a bunch of stuff. I think the next thing to get is like a new desk. I'm literally on a plastic table right now, and it's not a very solid experience. This microphone has kind of fallen down in the past, so I do take all of those dollars and pour them right back into this, just slowly, because these things are expensive. Salman, welcome. I'm about to sign off. The recording will be up live. I'll get this. I try and take these things. I immediately turn them around. I trim off that first part where it's just before the stream starts, and then I go back through the content and I try and put some basic bookmarks in there of what we've done, so you can jump around the content points. So sorry you're not able to join in for the rest of it. I'm about to sign off here, but you can catch it on there and catch me next time, which should be 2 weeks from now, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. All right, thank you all for joining in, and have a good night.